What kind of stories could an old building tell? Time buries the past and silences the voices, but a chosen few, determined to save the past, slowly peel the layers of secrets from the damaged walls. And Chambless is one of the chosen few, and she grants us a glimpse into a particular moment of time set into motion by Scottsboro founder Robert Scott.
Mr. Scott's heart and mind must have been bursting with pride that day in 1861 when the doors of the Scottsboro Depot building were first opened. This building became an important stop on the Memphis and Charleston Railroad that ran between Memphis, Tennessee and Stevenson, Alabama. Not too long after the doors were opened, the Great American Civil War began.
Today, I sent out infantry patrols to watch the approaches leading through the coves in the direction of Bellefonte, Scottsboro, and Larkinsville. The intelligence which reached my headquarters from citizens during the day showed that no enemy was in the vicinity except for the bushwhacking gangs which constantly infest the mountains. Reports indicate Confederate General Lyon crossed the mountain last night going towards Bellefonte. He has 500 men, many of them dressed in Federal overcoats. He has one howitzer. Colonel Harrison's brigade was immediately loaded on the only train at Larkinsville and started before 4 p.m. to Bellefonte with instructions to patrol the road from there west to Scottsboro and place a battalion at Bellefonte Landing, engage Lyon if possible, and pursue him at all hazards. The garrison at Scottsboro consisted of 2 lieutenants and 54 colored soldiers of the 110th Unorganized United States Colored Volunteers.
The federal officer in Larkinsville sent his men from the 110th Colored Infantry Regiment to guard the tracks and the water tank that serviced Scottsboro Depot. These men built an earthen fortress. Confederate General Harlan B. Lyon made his way across the mountain to Bellefonte and then into Scottsboro with the intentions of taking the Scottsboro Depot building back for the Confederate cause.
At about 5:30 p.m., a few single discharges of artillery were heard at long intervals in what citizens said was the direction of Bellefonte. The commanding officer at Scottsboro erred in leaving the earthworks and betaking himself in command of the brick depot building. He made, however, from the latter place a sturdy resistance to the attack of the skirmishers and held out well. He forced Lyon to dismount and form line of battle, bring up his artillery and use it, thus consuming considerable time.
His men marched into Scottsboro and began firing. The 110th Colored Infantry heard the shots, and all 43 of them rushed to the depot, closed the doors. Confederate General Line had his men fire on all four sides of the depot. The big event of the day occurred late January 8, 1861, when Union forces were inside the building still, and the Confederate General Highland B. Line decided to use his 12-pound howitzer. The 12-pound howitzer had a firing range of 1,032 feet. General Line stationed the cannon within firing distance on the east side of the depot building and fired the cannon that made the crack in the east side of the building that you can still see today.
In the meanwhile, the two sections preceding Colonel Malloy dashed past the troops on the train, firing on the enemy, confusing him and stopping the attack. That attack was on the garrison. In the confusion and cessation of the fire, the garrison escaped and came to Colonel Malloy, who was unloading and forming his lines at the water tank in the edge of town. A reinforcement from Colonel Harrison at Bellefonte arrived at this time on the east of the place, and the enemy ran away rapidly. Colonel Mitchell pushed his column rapidly forward. Soon after dawn of day, he came upon a detachment of the enemy attempting to burn the bridge across Santa Creek, while the main portion of his forces had swam the creek some 3 miles below and were passing the junction of the roads at Perry's, say 4 miles down the Gunner's Landing Road. General Lyon had reached Clayville opposite Gunner's Landing the evening before with the greater portion of his command and the piece of artillery. Citizens reported that he had abandoned his command during the night and had crossed the river by a scow with a piece of artillery and a portion of his staff. It is probable that about 200 of his command crossed during the night at Law's Landing.
To enjoy the study of history, it's best to look at the many layers of history. And certainly the Scottsboro Depot Museum is representative of several different categories of historic and cultural history here in Scottsboro.